We're live.
Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while since we've had a meeting, but I'm glad that you're able to tune in. If you're able to tune in, I thought what I'd like to do is just share with you some of the changes that have been happening. So to start with, we're doing some restructuring within administration and management. So as you all know, Amy is no longer with us, and we will not be replacing her position as interpreter communicator. However, we will be hiring freelance interpreters, which is what Amy is, and that is why Amy is with us today. A lot of the work that Amy was doing over the past year was administrative, as she was not able to get out into the community and do the interpreting that she is so qualified to do. So we've hired administrative assistant, Chris Burns. She'll also be taking over the scheduling of staff, which is currently being managed by the managers. And this will then free up the managers to focus on supervision of the staff and the care of the residents. We were fortunate that Chris Burns has a bus license and will be driving the bus for the residents until Jessica Dyke, who is our activities person, obtains her bus license, which she's currently working on. Chris Burns is fluent in sign language and has a lot of experience working within the deaf community. And some of you may remember Chris from when she was here working during Jessica and Amy's maternity leaves. So now I'm just going to clarify some things that have changed in regards to visits. Visitors and essential caregivers no longer need to book an appointment to come in to see their loved one. Visitation hours remain the same, and we have an active screener until 4:30. If you are not fully vaccinated, you will be required to take an antigen test. If you are fully vaccinated, then you just need to answer the screening questions and wear a mask. Residents are permitted to have 2 essential caregivers and 2 visitors to come in to visit them at the same time. There is no limit to the number of essential caregivers a resident may have, but only 2 can come in per visit. Prior to these changes, we were providing a lot of Skype, FaceTime, and window visits. Going forward, we are going to have to limit this type of visit as we do not have the staff. If you are from out of town, we will do our best to accommodate you with a Skype or a FaceTime visit. If you live in the city, we ask that you do your visits in person. There have been further changes to the visitor policy, and I will send out a copy of the policy after this meeting. Essential caregivers and visitors do not have to be fully vaccinated. If you are not fully vaccinated, you must wear full PPE and be antigen tested. However, we strongly encourage you to get your vaccine. Changes to the visits. The following changes refer to fully vaccinated visitors only. If you are visiting a resident's room, you may bring food and drink to the room. The only time you should be removing your mask is when you are eating or drinking. We would ask that you wear your mask in the room if you are not eating or drinking. Masks must be worn as much as possible around residents. If you are outside with the resident, the only time you should remove your mask again is if you're eating or drinking. If you're in the dining room or the lobby, wherever, you must be wearing your mask. Just to remind people that are not fully vaccinated, you must maintain a 6-foot physical distance from the resident at all times, except for a brief hug. You are not allowed to remove your PPE to drink or eat. Non-vaccinated residents are antigen tested according to the algorithm that is in the visitor policy. We have set up a small area in the chalet for families to have small gatherings, no more than 4 visitors plus essential caregivers plus the residents, so a maximum of 5. If you would like to use this area, please make sure you book it with Chris Burns or with Jen Pilon. And this is basically because it's going to be getting colder and harder for you to do visits outside. Please remember to wear your mask as much as possible, and we ask that you do not use the lobby area for any reason. This is reserved for staff being able to take breaks. I'm sure you've all heard that the ministry has announced that all staff, volunteers, students, and support workers must be fully vaccinated to come into the home as of November 15th, 2021. The Bob Rumble Home had joined a coalition of nonprofit homes and had decided to implement this mandatory vaccine prior to the announcement last Friday. We will continue to use the policy that we have developed, which requires anyone other than an essential caregiver or visitor to be fully vaccinated by the 15th of November. The definition of fully vaccinated that we are using for our policy is second dose vaccine 14 days after the second dose. The announcement from the ministry does not require the 2 weeks. However, our policy does. We introduced the policy to our staff on September 22nd in order to give them enough time to meet our deadlines. If a staff member is not fully vaccinated by the 15th, they will be placed on unpaid administrative leave. At this time, we have 3 members that we are working with and trying to encourage them to get vaccinated. And this is a really difficult time for us in terms of staffing, and this just makes it even more difficult. All new hires must be fully vaccinated. We are very pleased that the government finally made the decision to require all staff, visitors, staff, students, volunteers, and support workers to be fully vaccinated, as there continues to be outbreaks and deaths in long-term care across Ontario. As a further precaution, the ministry is requiring all long-term care homes to do random antigen tests on staff, volunteers, students, and support workers. We have not sort of figured out what that will look like. We're not allowed to test on the same day, so it has to be very random in nature. Just to talk a bit about the residents who had received their second dose more than 5 months ago have now received their booster shots. Those residents that did not make the 5-month mark will receive their booster once it's been past 5 months. And this is just a reminder to anybody that's coming in. We do provide training in PPE and in hand hygiene. And if you're interested in receiving that kind of training, just reach out to us. So I wanted to bring you up to date on our staffing crisis, I guess you could call it. We have hired 3 new resident care assistants to help us. They are allowed to do portering, they do some feeding. They are not allowed to provide personal care to the residents, but they are a support to the PSWs. We have 2 new PSWs coming on board. As you may or may not know, at the end of the summer, we lost 10 of our nursing students who were working as PSWs. They do come in and pick up an occasional shift, and they'll often help us on the weekends. This past week, we just lost 3 PSWs. We've hired a new nursing agency, and starting next week, they will be providing us with 2 PSWs. We also have 1 Georgian student that's currently coming in, and she'll be finished her placement at the end of October, and we're trying really hard to encourage those people that are graduating from the PSW program to come and work for us. We have lost cooks, housekeeping, and dietary. So currently we're looking for 1 cook, 2 housekeepers, and 2 dietary staff. So, sorry, we're looking for 1 cook, 2 housekeeping staff, and 2 staff for dietary. If you know of anybody that may be interested, please refer them to us. I wanted to give you some statistical information on vaccinations for the home. The staff, the average staff vaccinations across the province with the homes is 86% for second doses. BRHD is 96% for the first dose and 95% for the second dose. Residents, 98% are fully vaccinated and 82.8% have received their booster shot. Essential caregivers, 98% of our essential caregivers are fully vaccinated, and I want to thank you for that because that is so important. So we're doing well in terms of getting our vaccines up, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. That really is all the updates that I wanted to share with you. I really wanted you to know about the mandatory vaccinations. And I don't know if you have any questions for me. I'm happy to try and answer them for you. So. Hello to everyone. Hello, everyone. Good to see you, Amy. Good to see you, Amy.
They're about 30 seconds behind.
So we know there's a bit of lag time, so we'll just wait to see if there are any questions. Just a reminder, well, people may or may not be forming questions. The screener leaves at 4:30, so if you're planning a visit after 4:30, please be reminded that you may have to wait a while until the staff are free to come and screen you in. I would ask that you do not come in during meal times, which is 5 to 6, because the staff are very busy trying to provide meals to the residents. We still remain cohorted and have had no words in terms of the Ministry of Long-Term Care suggesting that changes. So we continue to follow all of the directives from the Ministry of Long-Term Care. Dr. Gardner put out a new order, which is posted at our front door, basically just talking about vaccinations, that kind of thing. Okay. Are there any restrictions over the Thanksgiving weekend? The same restrictions that are in place now will be over the weekend. So unfortunately, you will not be able to share Thanksgiving dinner with the residents here at the home unless you choose to take them out. So what do you allow non-vaccinated residents, visitors into the home? I think that might say why. The reason we allow non-vaccinated residents and visitors into the home is because that is what the ministry has directed us to do. We are not able to change that. I do believe because of what happened during our first lockdown, where families weren't allowed to see their loved ones at all, that the ministry is being probably a little bit overly sensitive to that. I do believe that all caregivers and essential and visitors should be vaccinated. but that is not my call. So that is something you'd have to take up with the Ministry of Long-Term Care. That is their rules at this moment. Correction to my initial question. Why? Yes, we figured you meant why. Okay. Thank you, Shirley. You're welcome. All of the restrictions and that we have in regards to residents and families are from the directives that we receive from the ministry. In dealing with our staff, those are decisions that we were making independently of the ministry because they were not stepping forward and making it mandatory. So my understanding from the meeting I had today is a lot of the other sectors will be getting the same mandate this week.
To your comment.
For those that are non-vaccinated, will they be restricted to one area and not be allowed into main area? Those who are not vaccinated must wear full PPE. So they must wear a mask, a visor, and a gown. There's no restrictions at this time as to where they can go. They have to maintain that 6-foot distance from their loved one, except for the hug, which again is all ministry directive. So they are allowed in public areas, but they have to maintain physical distancing, which is difficult to do with a resident who is not vaccinated because sometimes they don't understand what physical distancing means. Thank you. You're welcome. So we'll just give it another minute, and if there's no more questions, then we'll wrap up. Someone says, I appreciate these updates. You're welcome. I'm sorry it's been a while since we've got together, and things just sometimes just get rolling, and then we realized we just need to clarify what you can and can't do. So.
Your comment.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so again, if there's any questions or concerns that you think of after this meeting, please reach out to me. I will send you the new visitor policy. I have left the changes in red because it is a very long policy. And if you were to read it without knowing where the changes were, it might be difficult. So if you notice the red, that's where changes have been made based on whatever's going on with the ministry, with the directives that we're getting, that kind of thing. Okay? So have a good day and stay safe. Thank you.
Diane Johnson says thank you.